I was going through my collection of toys, and I decided I'd pull these two girls out because I wanted to make a video comparing the 1860 Colt and the 1858 Remington. Now, both of these are black powder, and the nice thing about black powder is they're not a firearm, according to federal law. So you can be 12 years old and order either one of these, mail order to your door, completely legal. Go out and shoot them. But more to the point of the story here, what I wanted to compare was, so this is the 1860 Colt. When people think of old time revolvers, like Civil War era, they think the 1860 Colt. Now, they are nice, smooth, and I'm not gonna necessarily dry fire because you don't want to hurt the percussion caps, but it's smooth. It works nice. This one was made by Navy Arms. This one's 36 caliber. And put you back there. This is the 1858 Remington. This one's an Army model. This is 44, 4-inch barrel. Well, actually, it's a 4.5, but nice and stiff. And if you notice looking at them, let me lay them down here side by side. Or better yet, let me stand them up. You notice some of the difference here. The 58s have a top strap. This guy. And a beefier frame. The cylinder is enclosed. So you're less likely to rupture in the cylinder on the top because there's something to sandwich the pressure in between, because your firing chamber is right here, your ball, your powder, your percussion cap. So that charge is going off here, and this cylinder is weak. And in the old days, when these were first made, it was a problem on the Colts that these would blow up like the Walkers if you load the bullet in backwards. Not only that, but the Remingtons here, these little, let me zoom in, these little half notches right here in between the percussion, in between the caps, where the caps will sit, the nipples, these guys, you're able to take the hammer, half cock it, and as you can see, maybe not, but there's a nipple, the percussion cap's there. Right there is the half notch, so you can pull the hammer back, set the hammer down, and put it in between two loaded chambers. This weapon is now safe to carry the full 6 cylinder. Full 6 shots in the cylinder. The Colt, let me half cock it. If you notice, it's got the open strap, and there is no half cock. So you would load 5, then you would set this down on an empty chamber, and you can only carry 5 in your 6. These are your index notches for the hand, which you can't see because the cylinder's on it. But for the hand, that would rotate this cylinder. That's what these are. So you can only carry 5 in your 6. And not only that, again, more to the point of the story, this is why the 1858 to me is a far superior weapon than the 1860, and why the 1858 should have more recognition and limelight. But in order to, say, pull the cylinder out of this, to change the cylinder, you would loosen this screw right here. You would pull this pin out, which runs across both sides. Then you slide the barrel off, and then you slide the cylinder off. The 58, you gotta do this one-handed. You would open up the lever, the loading rod here. You slide this access pin forward, and then you can roll it over, knock the cylinder out of it. Ease of cleaning. And although they say it wasn't commonly done at the time, and excuse the rust, a little rust on the cylinder here. I was shooting it a couple of days ago and cleaned it. Black powder's right, can get very rusty. As you can see, that's why they're out here. I gotta clean it a little better, but you can carry spare cylinders that are loaded, and the downfall of that is having, obviously caps on your nipples here with a full cylinder. If this drops and the cap got hit, it would settle off there. It's not necessarily recommended, but to have a charge and a round seated and then loaded into the firearm, loaded in here, you got to move the cylinder to get it to drop on. But you would load it, and then you can go ahead and cap it. And you can see how easy that is to take and go back on. I'm one-handed with filming, but like I said, whereas with the Colt, you gotta take your screwdriver here And you got to go to the pin, this guy, and loosen this up. And I probably won't go all the way taking this apart because it's kind of a pain in the butt because it's so tight. Then you drop your screw in your cylinder, you know, to stop it from rotating. And then you would drive this pin out, which like I said, because it's so tight, because one, it's a repro, and two, I ain't shot at this that much. You would pull this pin out. I actually put a screwdriver on the back side. Here, and drive it, because this is a little spring clip that holds it firm from walking out, and the screw helps with that. But like I said, the Remington 1858s are a far superior firearm, you know, for the era than the 1860 Colts. The reason why Colt, everybody thinks about the Colt is because it's a Colt, because Samuel Colt built this. It was the first really mass-produced revolver, especially for the Civil War. The 58s weren't, you know, they were pretty much the second most popular. Then you had like Griswolds for the Confederacies. You had Smith & Wesson with their Volcanics and their revolvers, and a whole sort of host of other different manufacturers. But these are just some of the differences between the 1860s and the 1858s. And one other cool feature about the 58s specifically is with the reproductions with these steel frames, and this is only for the reproductions with the steel frames, you can actually swap this cylinder out for a conversion cylinder and put center fire ammunition in it, like 45 long Colt, you know, low power cowboy loads, and you could put a center fire cartridge cylinder and shoot center fire ammunition out of it with no paperwork, no FFL, nothing, because a cylinder is not considered a firearm. You can buy them right off the internet for $200. Drop it in, and you can have a functioning 6-shooter with center fire ammo and run it all day. You cannot do that with the 1860 Colts because of not having a top strap. There's not enough meat to protect the cylinder from in case of blowout, because that chamber sits right here, and if there's, say, a crack or stress fatigue in it, and you touch this off, and something for whatever reason builds up too much pressure, you have, you know, the wrong powder, too much powder, overstuffed, and you can split the cylinder here, blow the top of the cylinder off, and it's not a good day shooting. With this, as I've said, with this top strap, it does work nice. So, one more treat that I have, just for the giggles, is this guy. This guy is a first pattern Smith & Wesson Model 1.5. This was made, judging by the serial number on the butt, somewhere between 1869 and 1870. This is an original, and this is actually a center fire. It's a top break. You just break it open, slide your cylinder out, and you go to your ejection rod, and you just put your casings out. This one's actually 32 rimfire, and I can make my own ammunition for it with 32 casings and ram sets. And you just kind of supposed to be able to just slide this in here. It needs to stand up to do it, but I just figured this was a neat little piece. I picked it up as a curio and relic for like 50 bucks. And I have shot this a couple of times with very, very low light powder load. And drop the cylinder in, close it back up. Cock it. Fire it. Cock it again. And keep doing that. The cylinder, the clockwork is still beautiful. Right on par. When you cock it, it's a nice tight spring. Right in line. But this is just some of what was being developed at the time. So this was post-Civil War. These two were pre-Civil War, the percussion days. Then they got into the rimfires, and they started making percussion guns. So, I hope you found this video entertaining. I'm not a videographer. I'm not a cinematographer. I'm holding a cell phone filming a couple of pistols I have. And hopefully somebody enjoys these. Thank you and have a good day.